So yes, I'm going to. I've written a creed for kind of the fundamental principles or affirmations of Just Be You for the village, and that that would be threaded through everything that we do in the village, how we treat each other, um, all the teachings, etc. So I'm just going to walk through those affirmations, and yeah. So affirmation one, or principle one, is that we believe in the sanctity of every human person. Every person is an unrepeatable expression of life itself, and so possess an inherent dignity that can never be earned, diminished, or taken away. And we believe that every person becomes most fully themselves, not in isolation, but in relationships that reverence the sanctity of personhood. So, just to comment on this first affirmation, the sanctity of every person, I mean, essentially what it means, as I say in the second line, is that we come in to this life with a dignity that doesn't have to be earned and can't be earned. And it actually can't be diminished, even by mistreatment. It will always be there. And it can't be taken away by any institution. That's the affirmation there. And what we do in this village and in these teachings are help people to tap in to that inherent dignity. And I've chosen to use personhood rather than individual because people can confuse it with sort of individualism. And that's why at the end of this first principle or affirmation is the sentence that we all become most fully ourselves, not in isolation, but in relationships that reverence the sanctity of personhood. And what essentially that means is that those people who do revere the sanctity of personhood become our friends. Those are the people who become our community, who we want to be with. Um, so the second affirmation, every human being enters the world with an original innocence that is never actually lost, but it can be forgotten beneath adaptations in the personality that are born of shame and fear. So what we're all about here is helping people to discover what it is that caused them to lose touch with their original innocence. And by innocence, I just mean sort of guiltlessness, uh, free of shame, the capacity for joy, the capacity for connection and love, to delight in the world as it is, for awe and reverence. And so that's an innocence that can get covered over, but it's never actually lost. And so the challenge is to remove everything, which is usually experiences of early shame and fear, or in school, for example, of bullying that causes a person to feel like they're guilty, that they're bad. And we talk about these as core unconscious beliefs that form, like I'm bad, I don't matter, I'm not legitimate, I'm not worthy, I'm not lovable, etc., etc. So we want to work with those to release the person uh, from those deep beliefs or conclusions that they came to a long time ago, so that this original innocence that I'm referring to can return. Third principle, Every child has the birthright to be known, delighted in, nourished, protected, and loved unconditionally. And this is based on the realization that this is what it is to be human, and these are the conditions under which we realize our full humanity, where we see a little baby and there's nothing but love. We don't expect a baby to perform. We don't expect a baby to be good, to be nice, etc., to be charming. Well, sometimes we do expect them to be charming. You know, smile for the camera, or do you have a little smile for me? And it starts very early. But when we are loved unconditionally, we gain the freedom to be unmistakably and unrepeatably ourselves. The fourth principle: every human being, every person, has the irreducible uniqueness that no family, no institution, no ideology, no therapist, culture, or any kind of authority has the right to erase. So when we do this work of uncovering our original innocence and learning that we are eminently lovable and delightful, we can become very sensitive to those institutions, including our own family. And this is part of the work, including the state, including spiritual or religious ideology, including therapists, anybody who's claiming to be an authority over our life and therefore wants us to dim that irreducible uniqueness is to be avoided. So our vocation in life is to become and express that irreducible uniqueness, not to become one of the crowd. And so the fifth principle: our deepest suffering in life begins when we abandon that uniqueness. We abandon ourselves in order to belong, to be safe, or to be loved. Sadly, that abandonment is necessary in order to survive for most of us. And thus begins the journey of our own suffering and the suffering that we generate through no fault of ourselves. But it begins in this condition of learning that we have to abandon ourselves in order to belong. And the sixth principle: love never asks us to abandon ourselves. It never asks us to become somebody other than who we are. It never asks us to change. True love delights in who we are and calls that person forward, wants to know that person, is not interested in changing us, but rather knowing us as deeply as possible. Any other definitions of love are not true. I mean, there's lots of ways to define love, but any definition of love which says you need to change in order to be loved is untrue. The next principle: freedom is not the absence of responsibility. It's the recovery of an unshakable inner authority that enables us to live our own life with courage, compassion, and integrity. So freedom is the recovery of that inner unshakable authority. So if we've pivoted to placing our soul, our true nature on the throne of our life and taking it back from external authorities, that is the freedom that enables us to live a true life. And so, I'll be talking more about freedom, but I think that growth, just incremental advances in freedom, might be the true definition of healing, where we're liberated from the past in order to claim the future that is aligned with our soul, or what I call the heart self. Next principle: true community doesn't produce conformity. It protects individuality. It protects personhood. Without you being you and me being me, there is no community. There's just a crowd. So any authentic community that we want to align ourselves with will be affirming of our personhood, will be celebrating our uniqueness, will be delighting in our individuality, and we will be delighting in the individuality of others. And that's the only basis for authentic community. So we want to distinguish here between the community and a crowd, which is based in sort of conformity to whatever it is, to teachings, beliefs, principles that that ask you to abandon what is uniquely you in order to belong to this particular crowd. So then I think the next principle is that the most important virtue, maybe the key virtue we can possess, is the courage to be ourselves in a world that is actually committed to our conformance. Because when we're conforming, it's easier for external agendas to get realized. And so we need to contend with those forces within and without that are dedicated to our conformance. And likewise, the greatest gift that we can offer somebody else is encouragement to stand alone if necessary. The next affirmation or principle is that love is the meeting of two irreducible persons, each called into deeper life and deeper intimacy by the infinite mystery of the other. And love doesn't erase that uniqueness. It reveals and magnifies it. So this is an affirmation that is based in our uniqueness, our individuality, that when we come into relationship with others, we come into a relationship that's grounded in their mystery of otherness. We are infinitely other to the other. And yet it's that very otherness that summons up a desire to connect, not to resolve the differences, not to erase those differences, but just because we share of the vulnerability of the human condition, and the connection feels good. It's the basic source of pleasure. So this is what love is. It's the bridge that forms in the willingness to accept the otherness of the other. And it's a bridge of care and it's a bridge of love. So even though others are other to us, that in itself is what summons love, summons deep care. And the next principle is just staying with the previous one. So then we can talk about the purpose of love isn't to complete another human being, but rather it creates the conditions in which that person can become more fully themselves, where that person is free to express without fear and without apology, without having to justify themselves, the fullness of who they are, moment by moment. And when we find ourselves in the presence of that kind of love, we've found ourselves in the right community. We found ourselves with the right person. And so just to seal that in, to honor the sanctity of personhood is to delight in that uniqueness and never asking anybody and not being with anybody who asks us to relinquish it for any purpose. So this is the heart of just be you. This is what we're doing together.